And now, Toronto's very own cutie with a booty, J.R. Renby.
Welcome back, guys. Right at the top, I need to say to the protesters across the world, the streamers that are still covering those protests, the frontline workers, and everyone sharing facts and giving back, thank you. It means a great deal. Stay safe and stay vigilant. Today, our feature is a review titled See Ya, Space Rat. It's about a badass show none of you have watched, and at least most would enjoy. There are some pretty heavy parallels between that world and our own, from protesters being set up and what happens when young people are not treated like human beings, to pretty obvious examples of why restructuring and demilitarizing, essentially defunding the police, could be a damn good idea. But before that, on to the news. CNN's Sarah Stewart wrote an op-ed article titled, "Why You Shouldn't Give Up on Going to the Movies." And it actually is a very well thought out and really good piece that I recommend regardless of your opinion going in on this subject. But that title, for myself personally, awful title. I gave up a long time ago, years ago, on the theater experience when I watched Batman vs. Superman. I didn't like the movie very much, but the real bummer was all the blood pooling everywhere at our feet, steadily leaking from several other moviegoers' eyes and ears and mouths. Sticky film experience, and I didn't like it. But I hear the Snyder Cut fixes this. Forbes details Netflix changes in a new article, saying the average Netflix user missed 58 hours of commercials during their quarantine just by streaming more and watching less broadcast television. This comes from a new study from Kill the Cable Bill. The average Netflix user streamed content for 2 hours a day before quarantine, and then up to 3.2 hours during the shutdown, which is interesting, but it seems way too low to me. Who the hell are these people that don't have Brooklyn Nine-Nine going in the background constantly, whether it's on mute or not? I don't want to know them. I don't want to know they exist. They don't know how to Netflix properly. Wired shares words of Xbox head Phil Spencer in an article titled "The Future of Xbox Isn't Just a Console." That doesn't sound great to me, but I bought an Xbox One, so what do I know? He dives further. We're going to be focusing on the player and the devices that they have that fit into their lifestyle. What are you talking about? Make 5 good games in 1 year before blabbering on about the future every year. The future. Real world progress? The future. You are lucky you have Game Pass, guys, because you're just spewing all your Xbox goodwill. USA Today reported the top viewed TV shows last week. Number 1 is football, which confuses me. Number 2 is NCIS. Dear God, no. Never mind, actually. What I meant to say is that television no longer exists. They have died because they deserve to. Sony recently debuted the PlayStation 5, and every intelligent consumer was most concerned with the games. Spider-Man Miles Morales. For me personally, yes, absolute yes. Gran Turismo 7? Well, we'll see. Ratchet and Clank looked crazy. Sackboy is cute, but again, we'll see. Oddworld is very smart. Hitman 3, Resident Evil 8, and Demon's Souls, all tepid but optimistic yeses. Horizon Forbidden West is alongside Spider-Man for me as a must-buy. And there were other titles announced, but I don't care about those, so sources below. And that's the way the news goes, folks. So enjoy our future. See you in a minute. From this very first scene, I am ecstatic that I picked this series to start the Gundam franchise with, as we see a young boy named Mikizuki shoot someone, presumably to death. He looks back to his only friend, his street brother and leader, Orga. He asks,
"What do you want me to do next, Orga?"
Orga.
So, why review Iron-Blooded Orphans in 2020? Well, it's the same reason to watch it, I'm afraid. This first season reflects our world all too well. We watch disenfranchised kids, a wealthy girl, and some apparently gold-hearted gangsters decide to take on a massive government and its violent, cowardly tactics, based on mutual human dignity and respect for each other. Now, in our world, we have cops in New York kettling innocents, civilians who are just standing up for every citizen's right by protesting, and eventually in the show, we see our underdogs involved in an uprising that has itself been set up to fail by the government. Seems familiar, doesn't it? Nevertheless, the relationship between Mika and Orga is the center of the series so far, but we do have a large cast that is more interesting than average. And we get points of view from nearly every side of every conflict. Along with cute characters engaging in this world, we get meaningful quiet moments, tension-filled fights, and disturbing executions. This is my very first Mobile Suit Gundam series review, and apparently the darkest. That's no coincidence. Growing up, I did not think that Gundam was going to be for me. And largely due to its legacy and my inability to catch up on shit, if I'm being honest. Then I watched a couple of Glass Reflections videos about the Gundam franchise, and he touched on Iron-Blooded Orphans as something the average viewer could easily get into, at least compared to the grand mythos of the rest of the Universal Century. Let's just say the man thought out his opinion, and I'm glad I watched his videos while researching Gunpla, but I digress. 8 years later, these boys are now teenagers, forced by circumstance to serve in the CGS, a private security company. A smaller outfit than the ones we'll see later this season, and one that sees itself as a bastion for space rats, those born in space. The CGS employs children as soldiers, workers, and abuses them the whole time. And they also install the Alea Vignata system in most children, in an agonizing procedure that lets the kids who have undergone the surgery react faster and produce more while using mobile worker units. In the first episode, we also meet Cordelia Ina Bernstein, a wealthy aristocrat type who travels to the CGS base in order to get support for her journey to Earth, where she intends to speak for peace. Cordelia is risking her safety by doing this, as she's integral to the Mars independence movement. Gallarhorn, the massive reigning body in question, originally a peacekeeping force, now uses violence to suppress the will of their people. The opening and closing songs are beautiful, and I gotta say I love them. The ending shot of Barbados with everyone chilling around him and having a picnic just melts my heart. Speaking of which, the reveal of Barbados in action is just so gorgeous. We see the suit motionless early on in the first episode, but it just doesn't compare. The choreography of these fights stay beautiful throughout season 1. And Gallarhorn has some interesting characters as well, but the only truly sympathetic character on their side doesn't get a whole lot of screen time for the rest of the season after episode 3. Before he became a convert of the Christian faith, the 17th century mathematician Pascal was a gambler. He posited that believing in God was itself a gamble. This fact kept swirling around my head at times while watching this show. Not just because these kids are changing class so drastically so quickly, or because of the addictive calculations that Orga and enemy leaders put into their fights on the battlefield. Also because some characters consider heaven, hell, death, and their right to any of it. That's not a main theme once it's brought up, but it's hard to forget any of these kids see themselves as lesser, as trash, and at best, space rats. Yet they still find reasons to fight in each other, and that's a beautiful thing to watch. Moreover, I wondered what characters not present for that conversation had already made that gamble. The kids form Tekkadan from the bones of CGS, a new mercenary group with freedom and prosperity as their goal. Cordelia and a farm girl named Atra go with Tekkadan into space to get Cordelia to Earth, and after a while in space, the Taiwas Corporation joins the group. This is where the world truly opens up and we start seeing the conspiracies working in the background. Now the second half of season 1 is where the actions of our heroes and villains start catching up with them, and a mysterious new masked character enters the fray, with Tekkadan in his sights. But before that, Tekkadan and their companions end up in the middle of a revolution. Are they using it to their advantage, just getting through it, or being used themselves? Corruption, conviction, and consumption become themes to the overall plot, and it's handled well enough. It's also thrilling to watch. Now, female characterization is a common problem in all creative media, and the medium of anime is no exception. At the end of the day, you have to wonder, is this poor writing or the fact that most fiction takes place in a patriarchy? In my opinion, at the end of the day, it's just poor writing. There are exceptions, and they tend to come from female creators or productions with female input and influence. Time has proven in general that man has issues considering alternate perspectives. Now, Cordelia and Atra, the first two real female leads of this massive cast, do get development, but the stories also do breeze through or wallow in sexist tropes at times. Depending on how invested in the believability of their arcs you are, you may not last long enough to see them have some amazing or at the very least interesting moments. If you're really tired of the love triangle trope, for example, by the time Atra makes a sacrifice for Cordelia and the crew, it'll likely ring a bit hollow and weird. Now, I personally think this show is fun and interesting, but if I was a woman, I don't know how long I'd last. Maybe not long enough to see some female badass pilots show up, which they do. McGillis in particular, a cunning and intelligent character that has plans of his own for the entire government, is fascinating to watch, but he straight up has a child bride. It's political and he treats her like a daughter more than anything, so It's fine in most characters' eyes, if not a blatant power grab, but it's a little bit jarring still. Now, I personally can't tell what any one person, male or female or whatever, will love when it comes to their entertainment. And I know there are many female Gundam fans, but there are also better female Gundam characters. At least that's what I'm told, so this one's hard to judge. So I'll just tell you what I feel. So far in this series, I'm invested in all of the main characters, but the women could have been handled better. The action and pacing are damn good. The first 3 episodes are akin to a tight TV movie. Think Attack on Titan's first 3 episodes with much less death. Well, less death. The music and set pieces go hand in hand. You know, when those emotional moments meet that score and the characters are fighting for their lives, just puts a Sunday morning cartoon stunned smile on my face. Stuck between fun, beautiful grounded sci-fi, and emotionally retching choices and acts, Season 1 is a relevant blend of what the f***, and I wholeheartedly recommend it.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you've been well in the past few weeks, which have been insane, with people in sweaty crowds unhygienically not wearing masks and others being very outwardly racist, even here in Toronto. So I guess I'm just trying to stay sane myself, just building model kits and smoking away brain cells. But that's just me. Anywho, I definitely want to say that I'm incredibly proud of the protesters, and especially the average person who is using this opportunity to confront their own racism right now, no matter what race you are, because it's just the only way forward and a beautiful thing to see from any and every generation. Now, demilitarizing the police, mental health, and general health coverage, and hopefully the disturbing effects of unrestrained capitalism exposed further by COVID, and much more have been discussed daily, and we need to keep talking about these things. We need to keep working together on all of these issues. We need to keep helping each other and calling out abuse when we see it, no matter who the abuser is. It's cheesy as hell, but humans tend to make great strides when enslaved or in love. We can all see how our insults and ignorant opinions can lead to loud idiots at best and incredibly disturbing actions en masse at worst. Canadians, we are not immune, and it is literally insane to think that we are. Just an example, the National Post reported last week that in Innisfail, Alberta, residents shamed a 23-year-old woman who tried to organize and show support for anti-racism. Examples include, but are not limited to, "I will not welcome this in our town. The entire thing insinuates we have some sort of racial problem, which we do not." Media can't paint Africans in a bad light, I guess. Wow, good job, Alberta. When is the White Lives Matter protest? When is it, you guys? It's called the Klan Rally. Alberta, it's called the Klan Rally. Others, again from a town of 8,000 people, said systemic racism does not exist here or in the United States. What kind of rock do you have to be under to think that? The mayor of Innisfail himself, Jim Romaine, responded with, "All lives matter. F*** you, Mayor Lettuce. F*** your town. And f*** Alberta if you're with this goof. You're trying way too hard to be Texas yet again. It's time to take off that cowboy hat and strap on the dunce cap. Because we f***ing see you." Ask Olympic gold medalist Donovan Bailey if systemic racism exists in Canada. Spoiler alert, it does. Now that 23-year-old woman, Brittany Bove, is a hero of mine. She finally did put on this Black Lives Matter protest, and I personally think most people would not have after that. Or in general. I don't know if I would have. So this is real, and we're not going anywhere. Clearly, we have enough hate to drown the world's population several times over. It's cheesy, I know, but like I said, let's go with love instead. I'd rather fall in love with everyone than keep destroying ourselves. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a wonderful day, and please take care of yourselves.